Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of One Shift at a Time. I am your host, of course, Shane, and we're going to do something a little different. I thought we'd do. It's a quarter of the way through the season. Most teams have played about 20 games, 20 out of 82, so we'll say that's about 25%. Do some grading. Grade these teams on the old school grading chart and see how teams are doing. So we're not going to just do how they're doing in the league, because that'd be obvious. Just, top teams would be A's, middles, B's, C's, D's, stuff like that. But we're going to do it kind of compared to their expectations. So if a team was expected to do good and they're not doing so good, they're going to get a lower grade. If a team is doing good that's not supposed to be doing good, they're going to get a better grade. So something like that we'll see as we go along. So we're going to go alphabetically by team name. We're going to start off with the Avalanche, and they're going to get a C. They're 10-6-1, fifth place in the Central, so not where they were expected to be. They had a very slow start. They're starting to turn things around. That's why I didn't punish them earlier this season. It could have been lower. Last year they were first in the West, so definitely a big step back. They had a big disappointment in the playoffs last year, as they were expected to make quite a push. They were put out quite early, and then they struggled to start the season. I think things are looking a lot better. I believe they're 7-2-1 in their last 10, so they're definitely trending in the right direction. Next we have the Blackhawks, and we're going to give them a D. I mean, they were fifth in the East last year. They were expected to get, I think, a little bit better, especially with the addition of Marc-Andre Fleury. And again, they're starting to play a little better now, hence they're not an F. They were definitely an F for a bit of the season, but they've worked themselves up to a D. They're 7-11-2, seventh in the Central. So definitely, I think, playing better now. We'll see if they can continue it. And we got the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're going to get a B. Just a really great bounce back season. They're 12-6-0, good for fifth in the Metro, which is a marked improvement from their 18-26-12 performance last year, which got them eighth in the Central. I mean, just to have 18 wins last season in the whole season and be at 12 wins already in only a quarter way through the season shows you the vast improvement. The Tortorella effect. As he leaves, teams seem to improve. Blues, another team who had a better grade. Earlier in the season, they were doing better. They're down to a C with their current, they've only won one in their last, I think it's 6. They're 10-7-3. That's still second in the Central, so they're still doing good in the stats, but they were 27-20-9 last year, and they were fourth in the West. So they kind of stayed the same, whereas at the beginning of the season, it really looked like they put things together and that they were going to go far. The Bruins, another team right down the middle. We're going to give them a C. A C is average, I think. D and F are worse, B and A are better, but C is average. They're 10-7-0, fifth in the Atlantic. They were expected, I think, to take a bit of a step back. They lost Tuukka Rask. They lost Char a couple years ago. They've kind of been losing pieces of what was a championship caliber team. I'm not sure that they are looking at making a big run, and I think most Boston fans were accepting that, so I'm going to give them a C. I mean, last year they were 33-16 and 7. They were third in the East, but again, they've lost some parts. The Canadiens, ooh, that one's an F. You know that's an F. They're 5-15-2. After a Cinderella run in the playoffs last year, I think a lot of people had really high expectations for them. I mean, we know Carey Price has not been there. He's struggling with some personal issues, and that's sad, but they're seventh in the Atlantic, and they're last year they were 24-21-11. They did get 11 loser points, which is what actually snuck them into the playoffs, and maybe that is why they seemed better than they were, because they did go on such a great run where they barely should have made the playoffs. I mean, I think they squeaked Calgary out by 1 point, and it was one of those many loser points. But continuing on, we got the Canucks, and that's another F, unfortunately. 7-13-2. Definitely some expectations. I mean, Pettersson signed that big deal in the contract, but I don't know what's happened this year. He's disappeared. Besser's disappeared. Most of their best players have disappeared. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is not. I don't know what they were thinking there, but he's not doing great. And Demko was the only bright star, and lately he's not been playing very well either. So they went 23-29-4. They were seventh in the North last year, which was last in that smaller division, and yeah, they're sinking to last in the division again this year very quickly now. Capitals, a little bit brighter story. I think everyone had them having a regression, and especially Ovechkin, another hat trick last night. Guy's crazy. Absolutely insane, that guy. He's gonna, I think, actually catch Gretzky. Last year I thought there was an outside chance. Now I'm thinking it's more of a when, not an if. I think he'll stay in the league just to do it, and he's got the shape to do it. Honestly, he still looks like a young kid. They were 36, 15, and 5 last year. They were second in the East, so second in the Metro this season. Definitely doing good. And again, I think they were expected to drop down a bit, and they definitely aren't. So they get the A. Coyotes handing out another F here. 4, 14, and 2. Like, come on, guys. It's 20 games in. You've won 4 games. That's going to get you 8th in the Central. I don't want to hit on them too hard. So they were 24, 26, and 6. They were 5th in the West last year. So a big drop from a team that I think was expected to at least tread water, if not get better this season. The Devils, a C. You know what? Not great, but they're not worst, right? Last season they were 19, 30, and 7. They were 7th in the East. Again, they only had 19 wins the whole season, which was a shorted, I believe it was 56 games last season. This season they're already at 8 wins, so much better season. I think nobody's gonna start, planning a Stanley Cup parade anytime soon in New Jersey, but definitely a lot better, I think, than people thought. So that's a happy surprise. Another happy surprise, we got the Ducks, man. They were 17, 30, and 9 for 8th place in the West. So they were last place in that West Division last year. And this year, they're 11, 7, 3 for 3rd in the Pacific. So they already are only 6 wins behind their total for last season, only a quarter of the way through this season. So definitely huge improvement in Anaheim. I thought they might have been on the edge of a rebuild, but here they are. They're doing very well. Next, we got the Flames, another A. They are just playing really well after a bad season. They played good 2 seasons ago. Last season was a really drop. They dropped down a lot there, but this season they're 12, 3, and 5, 1st in the Pacific. So just great stories coming out of Calgary, including tons of shutouts. So had to give them an A. Flyers, another team that was doing better earlier in the season, but I've had to drop them down to a C. They're 8, 7, and 4 for 6th in the Metro. Very similar to last season where they were 25, 23, and 8 for 6th in the East. Again, the way things started, I think some expectations did get built up because of their early season success, and lately they're just unfortunately not having that kind of luck. Going back to the A's and of course the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are an A for sure. They finally lost a game in regulation, but 15, 3, and 1 for 1st in the Metro. That's an A, and they did good last year too. It should be less and less surprising as Carolina continues to put these good teams on the ice. They were 36, 12, and 8, good for 1st in the Central last year. So weird having these Florida teams in the Central Division. I'm glad, I know North Carolina, Florida, it was just a weird year last year that those were considered Central teams. Islanders, they're a D as well. 5, 10, and 2. This is a team that has made the conference finals last 2 years in a row. Not a lot has changed. They still have the same coaching staff and stuff. They unfortunately had that massively long road trip to start the season. They finally got home, but they're not having any luck at home either. They were 32, 17, and 7. They were 4th in the East last year. This year they're 8th in the Metro. So a big drop for them. Jets, oh man, before this losing streak, they were doing good. I think I had them at a B, but I dropped them to a C tentatively because I was doing this before last night's game. I think I'm going to actually drop them to a D, unfortunately. The Winnipeg Jets, I mean, they're still 4th in the Central, 9, 7, and 1, but that was a bad 7-1 loss last night, and as I said, I believe that's their 5th loss in a row, unfortunately. Jets, they were looking so good. Hellebuck was stealing games last night. It was just that was not Hellebuck. It might have been him in net, but it did not seem like him in net. So moving right on, we have the Kings. The Kings are also a C. They're 8, 8, and 3, 6th in the Pacific. Huge improvement for them. But again, they're not taking that next step because of that Pacific is so dangerous, but that sounds bad. They're 6th in the Pacific. But last year, they were 6th in the West, 21, 28, and 7. So again, the quarter of the way through the season, they have almost amassed half the wins that they had last season. So an improvement, definitely. A team that has nothing to compare with last year is the Kraken. They're 6, 13, and 1 for last place in the Pacific. And maybe our expectations were set a little high because of the Golden Knights' success right off the bat. But this is more like the expansion teams we've seen in the past, and unfortunately, that's an F. And next we have the Lightning, and we're going to give them a B. They could be an A, honestly. Obviously, they could be an A because they're Lightning, but they've won the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row, and they're not in first in their division. So they're not quite meeting up to the expectations, even though they're having a damn good season, and I don't think anyone is complaining. They're 12-4-3. That's third in the Atlantic. Again, as I said, I think a lot of people would expect them first, but again, last year they're 36-17-3 for third in the Central, and they still won the Stanley Cup. So I'm not dissing the Lightning by any stretch of the imagination, but just not playing as to their full potential, and again, they're dealing with injuries as they seem to every year. Maple Leafs, they're getting an A again. They had a rough patch to start the season, but they've been just looking solid since. Only one loss, I believe, in the last, I don't even know what it's up to, 9 now? Something like that. They're 15-6-1, first in the Atlantic. Of course, last year they were 35-14-7. They did win the North. A lot of people gave them and the Oilers a bit of a hard time, like, oh yeah, of course you guys had so many points because you were in such a weak division. I think this year has really proved that that is not the case, as the Oilers and Flames and Maple Leafs are right in the top of the whole division, or the whole league. So I think that argument that there was a weak division is now fully flushed out the window. The Oilers next, again, another A, 14-5-0, second in the Pacific, down a point to the Flames with a game in hand. So you're going to have Oiler fans that are going to want them to be first in the Pacific, and I can see them coming. But technically, by that one point, they are second. They were 35-14-5, 35-19-2 for second in the North last year. Panthers, who I just read you off their record of 37-14-5, second in the Central last year, they're going to get an A as well. 14-3-3, second in the Atlantic. Man, that Atlantic is stacked this year. It's a shame that only one of those teams is going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but again, they're going to get an A. Penguins, B. They're only getting a B because, again, injuries, honestly. Injuries has held them from getting to their potentials. They're 10-6-4 for fourth in the Metro. But last year they were 37-16-3 and they got first in the East. So definitely a step back. But again, I know a lot of that is injury related. So, but the report card is what it is. It's a B. Predators also a B. They're 11-8-1, third in the Central. Again, that is very, very much what I think they were expected to. Last year they were 31-23 and for fourth. 31-23-1 for fourth in the Central. So their win-loss ratio is almost dead on with what it was last year. So Rangers, that is a big step forward this year, and they're getting an A. So they're 13-4-3 this year for third in the Metro, and they've been playing some darn good hockey as long as they're not playing against the Flames, who are responsible for 2 of their 3 losses on the season. 27-23-6, so they're barely playing above 500 hockey last year for 5th in the East. So remarkable improvement in their Rangers this year. The Red Wings, I think this is a team that nobody expected anything to change, right? They didn't really make a lot of off-season moves, but yet they've the on-ice product has improved a lot. So I gave them a B. They're 9-9-3, fourth in the Atlantic. Last year they weren't even close to 500 hockey, which is what they're playing this year. Last year they were 19-27-10 for seventh in the Central. So again, not a lot of on-ice movement, but I guess it's the chemistry. These guys are playing together, whatever it is, it's working. Sabres, they looked so good to start the season, but they're dropping down. I'm still giving them a C because I think people were, especially with loss of Eichel, being like, are these guys going to win a game all season? And they have. They've won 8 games, 8-10-2, so below 500 again. But again, this is much better than they're expected. They only won 15 games last year, right? And they're already at 8, so. Sens, that's another F. Horrible last season, and everyone's, I think with all those young guns, everyone thought, okay, this season it's gonna click together. Matt Murray's, he's gone on a couple Stanley Cup runs. He can be a solid goaltender. Now, of course, they've let him go. Nothing's working. Brady's captain. I think that was a smart move, but other than that, I don't see anything positive in Sens organization. So at 4-13-1, 8th in the Atlantic, they're gonna get an F. The Sharks. I mean, good win. Another loss last night. Sorry, that was against the Leafs. They dropped to 10-9-1, 5th in the Pacific. So they're getting a C. Not as bad as last season because they were 7th in the West last season. They were really kind of out of it. They seem to be in it for a bit. They're dropping out again though, as well. The Stars, they're going to get a D. Good win last night, so we'll see if they can kind of build on that. They're 9-7-2, 6th in the Central. So, yeah, I mean, this is again a team that was vying for the Stanley Cup just 2 years ago in the finals, and now they're not even coming close to playing 500 hockey. So it's got to be disappointing to that fan base down there, who's quite used to winning, and they just haven't had that in the last couple of years. Vegas, they're going to get a C. Only because this is the worst season in their history, and that's really saying something. They had a 12-8-0, 4th in the Pacific is the worst that they've ever done. But they've really had some luck as an expansion team and done well. Last year they were 14-2. They were 2nd in the West, so they've dropped from 2nd to 4th. But again, that's because of some great play by other teams. So we're not going to kill them too hard. They're going to get a C. I think I'd be not very concerned once everyone comes back from sickness. Vegas is it's gonna be tough. And last we have the Wild, the Minnesota Wild. They're gonna get a B. Another decent start. They're 13-6-1. They're 1st in the Central. I mean, last year they were 35-16-5. They were 3rd in the West. So they've made those steps forward. I could probably have given them an A. We'll see. See if they can push themselves up to the A for the halfway mark grades. I don't see why they can't. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know. That's a totally different type of video for me. This was definitely a lot more work, so let me know if you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share this thing around, and as always, you guys, take care, and we'll see you next episode.